Here we go, y'all. Let's get into people living paycheck to paycheck. Again, we're gonna go to Forbes. Forbes is like the second good old faithful. I don't know who good old faithful is CNBC. I don't know who second place is. Maybe I need to go back and watch episodes and see how I do the second most. We're gonna get into Forbes today. Again, survey. How many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? Now, before we get into it, and this is by Becky Pokora. I tell y'all, there are so many names in the world, obviously, but how come all the writers' names that I get for these articles are usually so damn hard? And she's Forbes advisor staff. I want to say this before we get into the survey to see how many people they actually surveyed. A lot of people say, it's anecdotal information from your own experience. Most of the time, these surveys don't have like tens of thousands of people. This is going to talk about how many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. There are over 300 million Americans. For working Americans, let's just call it 200 million. They probably did a couple of thousand people. I'd be surprised if they did 10,000. But when you look at these articles, when we have these surveys, and when we say how many people live in paycheck to paycheck or whatever the statistics are, they don't interview or survey that many people based on the population as far as how many they could actually survey. It's sort of like voting. I think maybe half of registered voters actually vote, even though, over 100 million people vote. But when we say, whatever the data is, statistics are, it's not like all these people were interviewed to get this information. All right. And again, this was updated December 1st, 2023. All right. Editorial note. We earn a commission from a partner like Forbes advisor. Okay. For links. Anyways. All right, here we go. We're going to get key takeaways. This is going to be a lengthy one. We're not going to look at table of contents. We're going to get to it. All right. Amid rocketing housing costs, rising inflation, and other economic pressures, Americans are feeling the pinch. Wages don't always increase in tandem with higher living costs, leading to widespread trend of living paycheck to paycheck. Hold on. My monitor turned a little bit too much. Okay, so Forbes advisor, they did a survey. Cool. Americans' financial situation alarming. 2 in 5, 40.7% respondents reported they're living paycheck to paycheck. So almost half people living paycheck to paycheck, according to this Forbes advisor article. Okay, here we go. Look at the prominent cases and impacts. Okay, so for key takeaways. Okay, again, 40%, like we said. Nearly half of respondents, 49%, selected the cost of essential living expenses, including things like housing, utilities. That's a primary reason they're living paycheck to paycheck, rather than unexpected expenses of social pressures. Outside of the unexpected expense of that student loan that you got for your social pressure. Anyway, of those living paycheck to paycheck, 77% don't have enough in emergency savings to cover 1 month of expenses. So here we go. I don't know how many people they surveyed, but they're saying almost 80% of people don't have 1 month of savings in their emergency fund for their expenses. Most common non-essential budget item, whether or not one is living paycheck to paycheck, is spending on entertainment, okay, leisure activities, lifestyle, with about 20% of respondents selecting this option. 84% of those. A lot of people, even though it says 20%, most people don't admit how much their lifestyle is screwing them financially. So even though it says 20%, most people's main issue is how much they're spending on their lifestyle, and they won't admit how much you actually need to be able to afford their lifestyle they're living. Shout out to Keeping Up with the Joneses. That's the thing. We say 20% of people, then we complain about how many people are keeping up with the Joneses, which is why they're living paycheck to paycheck. 84% of those, okay, indicated that they use credit cards to cover expenses. See here. See, almost everyone admitted that they use credit cards to cover their expenses, but then they're going to talk about only 20% of respondents talking about their lifestyle is impacting their budget. You're not putting your mortgage or your rent. I mean, you can, but you're not putting your mortgage and your rent. Can't put utilities and things like that, but most of the necessities as far as expenses are not put on credit cards. So people who live in paycheck to paycheck to cover expenses, stuff pops up every now and then, medical bills, whatever that is. But let's be clear, it's a lot of lifestyle on these credit cards. Nearly 30% of respondents living paycheck to paycheck utilize and then buy now, pay later, which is just a credit card without having you get approved for a credit card. They said there's 30% use buy now, pay later to cover everyday essentials, such as groceries or gas. Gas doesn't cost that much. I think buy now, pay later on anything, I would say anything under $100 should be illegal. I'm about to start saying things should be illegal because it makes no sense. That's all one. Was it Dave Ramsey's show? No, it was Caleb Hammer. Shout out to Caleb Hammer. And he said the guy was making $40-something thousand a year. He's making like 33,000 or something like that, take home. And he had a truck payment for like a Ram 2500 for like $1,271, something crazy like that. And his interest rate was like 12%. I'm like, that alone It should be illegal for him to get approved for that loan because there's no way it makes any type of financial sense ethically for him to get that loan. For a car payment? No. Mortgage or rent, that's one thing. But a car payment being over a third of your take-home pay? Come on now, what are we talking about? Perhaps more, yeah. So anything over $100 buy now, pay later. When I see like, hey, you can do buy now, pay later for this $43 purchase on Amazon, it's like, what? Okay, perhaps more telling, 46% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. They said that they wouldn't be able to afford their current lifestyle. Okay, so this is, again, I don't read these articles ahead of time. Oh, I forgot to say, this is for entertainment purposes only. Don't sue me, sue your mama. Myself, no Jordan or fitness or finance professionals. Anything you hear is for entertainment purposes only. Before you take any action, you need to seek out a professional. Jordan and I are not fitness or financial professionals. Whatever the disclaimer is, don't sue me, sue your mama. I'm already into it, so I forgot. I know I forgot to do something. But look how this is saying 46% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck say that they wouldn't be able to afford their current lifestyle with buy now, pay later options. But then they're saying 20% of the respondents selected entertainment and leisure activities, which is lifestyle, as the reason they're struggling. So like, this is where if you can't afford your lifestyle without buy now, pay later, then more than 20%. This is what I talk about where the data gets conflicting. It's like, I guess it's a survey, so you don't know who answered these questions. But I mean, that's more than double of people essentially saying they're using credit cards for their lifestyle. Whatever. Astonishing 35% of those living paycheck to paycheck are planning to move to a more affordable state or country. What country are y'all moving to avoid living paycheck to paycheck in the future? How are you going to, never mind. If you don't have any money, how are you going to move to another country? Okay, majority of Americans' income doesn't exceed their expenses. For majorities, that's over 51% or 50%. Say their expenses is higher than their income? No, not sure. I operate on a deficit every month. Y'all in the red every month. 40% of respondents report living paycheck to paycheck. So we got 29% saying income does not cover standard expenses. What's standard expenses? Then we got 40% saying income covers expenses with nothing left over. And then we got 30% saying income exceeds expenses by a comfortable amount. So we got 70% of Americans saying their income is less than or equal to their expenses. What is standard expenses? That I hope we get into that. Okay, that data, from our survey revealed that 41% of respondents, we already talked about. All right, while many factors could potentially contribute to this situation, nearly half, 49% living paycheck to paycheck, singled out high essential expenses like housing, insurance, and utilities. That is true. I mean, all that stuff has gone up as a primary driver. Other substantial factors were lack of budgeting or financial planning, 46%. Let's be clear, if you're not on a budget, that is your issue. And low income, 44%. Respondents were able to choose up to 3 causes of living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so they gave them 3 options. Why are Americans living paycheck to paycheck? High monthly bills. Okay, they could pick 3 options, I guess, out of these options. So high monthly bills is rent, mortgage, utility, essentially the financial house. Lack of budgeting and financial planning, low income. Those 3 are all over 40%. Unexpected emergencies. That's redundant. An emergency is unexpected. Let's be very clear. Increasing the cost of living. So that's rising. That's inflation, essentially. Social pressures. 27% said social pressures. Good God. 35% said unexpected emergencies. 31% said increase of cost of living. 27% said social pressures. Then 6% for medical expenses. See, wouldn't a medical expense sort of kind of be unexpected sometimes? Financial support and family members, excluding children. Yeah, stop doing that. 6% right there. And then debt. Only 6% of people believe that. That's why your student loans are never getting paid off. And that's why I can only even entertain forgiveness but so much. People don't view debt as an issue. Whatever. Shout out to the good debt out there. While